Welcome back to the Book Rewind.
All right, this week we read From Below by Darcy Coates. What did you guys think about this book?
It started out and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this. And then I really started to like it. And by the end I was like, I just can't wait for this to be over.
Oh, that's really sad.
I said the same thing earlier. I said I felt they were just very repetitive to me.
That's
and
what was...
Like, you went down, okay, you came back up, okay, you went down, okay, you got to get your hours. Like, I get that. I just felt it was a little repetitive.
But didn't they go up and down 3 times and then they went down a fourth time?
Because of the ring.
Yes. And I was like, we cannot go down another time. I can't deal with it. But like at first, the first couple times when they would go down and they would talk about the going through the small spaces or their anxiety, like that gave me anxiety.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would be like, oh my God, I can't breathe because they can't breathe.
Are you claustrophobic?
I mean, maybe.
I've never been
She is now.
in that situation.
I would not be a good scuba diver. I can tell you that.
So, okay, well, I'll ask one of my questions on that topic now. Would you guys ever go down on any kind of cave dive or wreck dive or anything scuba dive related in real life?
I don't think I would do a cave dive. I think I would probably do a wreck, like if it was not very deep, because I know that they have
Like
stuff
one where you don't have to worry about decompression sickness?
that, yeah,
So not the Titanic.
not the Titanic, because I don't think you could dive down there anyways.
Not the SS Arcadia?
or
Yeah.
the Arcadia. But don't they have like places in like tropical islands
yeah,
that
like
have...
Cozumel's really big on diving, and yeah, I don't think you have to go very deep. I wouldn't know. I've never been, but
Yeah, I don't think I could go very far down. I would be very anxious.
Yes to all.
Yeah.
Take me.
You would do all of them?
Go for it. Yeah.
I've always wanted to go scuba diving. Like, I think it's just so cool. The thing is, though, one of my fears is running out of oxygen, and whenever they would talk about that and be like them being low on oxygen, I would have
anxious.
heart palpitations. I got so scared, and I was like, oh my God. Like, you guys have to go. You got to go now. Let's go.
We went scuba diving when we went to the Dominican, and we swam with sharks there, and I was anxious that entire time, and we didn't go beneath the surface. Like, we had, a snorkel.
So you went snorkeling, not scuba
Did I
diving.
say scuba diving?
Yes.
I meant snorkeling. We went snorkeling in the Dominican, and that made me anxious, just probably because of the shark
I
factor.
feel like snorkeling is harder, though.
Yes.
Well, because the waves kept coming up and like going over the top. But we so when we swam with the sharks, I think we just had a snorkel. But then when we swam the reef around where the shark enclosure was, there was those full face masks.
Like what do they call it? Snoobing?
It has like a big horn that comes out the top, and it has like a filter. So if water gets into it, it doesn't come down into like your mask.
So you're not like connected to oxygen from the boat.
You're not connected to any oxygen. No, it's just that, and that piece can go underneath water, but it doesn't like allow water to come into it. So you need to stay above the water, but if water were to get into it, it's not going to like flood your mask or get in your mouth or anything.
Well, I guess, Katie, you'll be the one who I invite scuba diving.
Yes.
I'll watch from the
boat?
the beach.
Oh, the beach, yeah.
You won't even go on the boat?
No, I would go on the boat probably, depending on how far out you guys go.
Oh, Lord.
I got my binoculars. I can see you guys from the beach. I'll just work on my tan and wait for you to
So
come
when
back.
we need rescued, you're just going to be like, oh, that's just an arm. She's saying hi.
She'll throw the ring, but that's as far as she'll go.
Sorry, I'm scared.
We're just left for dead.
Yep.
I would never let you guys just die out there. I would come get you. I would be not fearful and go get you. I would call and be like, they need help.
She'd get the people there quickly.
911.
Okay, so I have to ask you guys, was this your first horror book that you've read? It was our first for the book club, but was it your first horror book that you've personally read?
It was mine, yes. Like, I had not had any of that paranormal, like, vibe of any books.
Ocean Zombies?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the first one that I've read. I'm trying to think back.
So,
Maybe?
how do you feel about the genre from just this book alone?
I think I'd read it again. It made me anxious, but it wasn't terrible. I'm sure that there are other books out there that probably would give me the heebie-jeebies and I wouldn't sleep.
Give you nightmares. And, yeah. How about you, Katie? You think?
I don't know. Like, I am not like a horror person who wants to go watch those types of movies or anything of that nature. So I would for other people, but not.
She'll read it for us.
Do it for you,
I don't
Erica.
know if I would on my own.
I don't like watching horror movies either. I think it's.
I like to be scared like that.
I don't.
And the older I've gotten, the worse it is. Like, there's movies that I have watched over and over again that aren't even horror movies. It's just like a movie that has a lot of like suspense
and...
to it. And there's one in particular, I can't even think of the name of it, but Jennifer Lopez is in it, and like she's attacked by her husband and she moves, and there's always these encounters that she's having. And I've watched this movie like 10 times.
So you know what's going to happen.
I know what's going to happen. And still I'll be sitting on the couch with like the blanket pulled up to my nose, and I'm like shivering, and Jared's like, "What is going on with you?" And I'm like, I'm so anxious. He's like, "You've seen this movie so many times." And I don't know why, but like my heart is beating out of my chest. And the older I've gotten, the worse it is with scary movies. So I'm sure that books like that would probably be bad too for me. But I'll give it a try.
I don't know.
I'll do anything for you.
I kind of just like that anxious, not like terrified, but just, oh, what's going to happen? I just like the feeling. I don't know. It's weird. And I feel like as I've gotten older, I enjoy it more. Oh. Like, I don't have all those thrills in my life. So I want to either watch it or read it and experience it that way, I guess.
Thanks. Give me a good smutty book.
I mean,
Go read some of those Katie Robert books I've been reading. So what were your guys' initial thoughts of Cove and the crew?
I don't know. I liked Cove. I thought it was interesting how she could just kind of turn on and off her personality, it seemed like.
Mm-hmm. Like being really professional and...
Yeah, and she had voiced a lot of fear in her head, but she could get rid of it and not project it
on the outside. Yeah.
So I liked her character a lot. I really liked all the characters, honestly. I for sure thought that the professional diver that they had with them, Vanna, I thought for sure something was going to happen with her later on in the story. I was like, she's got to be doing something, but I did not see her. Was it an accident that had happened with her life partner? I did not see that as something that was going to be brought up in the story, but I liked all the characters.
I did like all the characters. I did like how Aiden came out to, like, he was that spunky type character, so I always wanted to know more about Aiden, or where he was going in the journey. But I did like Cove. I did like how she was able to be very, like, professional, but, like, keep it inside, and like she would do her normal breathing while she's like panicking, and
like nobody knew she was
nobody
freaking out.
Well, because you get someone who freaks out and then everybody starts freaking out around you. They start feeding off of that energy. So it was, I think, really important for her to stay like that. And then Vanna did such a really good job with that too. Like, no matter what, I'm gonna stay calm, I'm gonna stay short, like
not raise her breath.
This is what you're going to do. Right. She never really had any kind of inflection or like emotion in her voice. She always stayed really calm.
I didn't realize either that when you're using like an oxygen tank like that the more anxious you get and the faster you're breathing, the faster your oxygen is going to run out, and how important it is to
stay
practice
calm.
Calm breathing.
Well, I think that's why I got so anxious when I learned that Aiden and Roy had kind of fudged Aiden's diving, license stuff.
I thought for sure he was going to run out of oxygen.
I thought he was going to die
during any of those dives. I was like, he's lying.
Why would he lie? Like, I get it. You don't want to like cut the dive short, but that's your life. You have a potential fiance waiting for you at home, and you want to just lie
Can we talk about why would you take the ring down with
my
you in the dive when you want to go back home to propose with a family heirloom?
Yeah, when I found out that was an heirloom, I was like, "Are you crazy?"
Yeah, I guess he wanted her close to him during the dive, but yeah,
She hadn't even said yes yet.
So
I guess her parents did though.
that kind of goes into my next question
sorry.
of what you guys thought about Aiden lying about his oxygen.
it just made me very
Really
anxious
anxious.
because he wasn't lying by like a little bit. He was lying by a lot.
Yes.
At first, it was a little. Like
No, I mean, he was like 20% off.
well, the first time that he had said it was only, I think it was like
He was at like
7% difference than what the other people were. But then later on, he completely fudged it, and he was off by like 20% or something.
Well, because I think the first one, he was at 70-something%, and he lied and said he was at like 82% or something like that. So, I mean, he was like, what he said versus what he had was the big gap.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is they had the extra tanks with them. So why did he feel necessary to lie?
I think because at the point where they were in the dive, especially
True.
the second and third time that he lied, they, even though they had that other oxygen tank, like they're like, okay, he needs that to get up. We need to go now.
Yeah.
And I think he
she
didn't.
had said too, Vanna had said at the very beginning of the dive, we have these 3 extra tanks, but we're not going to use them, right? She like made that a
That's
big
true.
point to
Yes.
them that they're there for emergency purposes, but we're not
going to have an emergency,
Yeah.
right?
No.
Yeah,
That was at the very beginning.
that was kind of frustrating that somebody would be willing to put their life at risk.
And everybody else, too.
Right, because that wouldn't just be risking your life. You could potentially, something could potentially happen. Especially you hear these stories about these divers who try to like tank share or like mask share, and I know they're always like, you should never do that because then you get that other person that could start panicking, and you know it's not good to panic.
Have you guys ever watched a movie or anything on diving, like anything like that?
Yeah, I watched this one film. I think it was I want to say it was based on a true story, but these people were exploring an underwater cave. And that was one of the situations that had happened in the movie, was like the mask sharing and stuff.
We watched a documentary. Well, it wasn't a documentary. It was like a movie based on a true story on Netflix about the soccer team that had
Oh, yes.
gone into that cave,
cave?
for cover. I guess it was like flash flooding was happening, and they went into the cave to get covered, and they ended up getting backed further and further into the cave, and the cave flooded, and they were stuck back there, and they were starting to run out of oxygen because the cave, you know, as far back as they were in kind of like a bubble, and they sent down these world-renowned divers to go and get them, and that watching that is, I mean,
watched
Jared
that.
was even like on the edge of his seat, like, oh my God, biting his nails.
Like, can you imagine if that was you in that cave?
No, because they had to have a doctor come in, and they're all kids, like they were all children and it was a soccer team, and they like medicated these kids to keep them calm, so they were almost like in a sleep-induced, like a coma, basically, I guess. And they gave them the medication, made sure that they were like loopy enough to get calm into the water, and then a diver took them, and they were going through these very, very narrow places, and places where they had like zero visibility too. So they were like dragging them behind them or pushing them in front of them. And then they'd have to check and make sure like that their oxygen was in the correct place when they got through those narrow places.
Kind of like what they did with Aiden when he had been.
Yep. If you like watching stuff that I'll have to ask Jared what the name of it is, because holy cow.
Oliver, yeah, we watched that.
Oh, do you remember what the name of it was?
I don't.
Oh, God, guys, what good are you?
No, maybe I should text Jared now, because I'm sure he would be able to tell me.
So when Sean found Vanna's diary, did you think that she was going to do something with the team? Because all of the hints kind of pointed that she was either going to do something or something was going to happen to her. You mentioned that, so I wanted to bring that up.
I don't know if I thought she was going to specifically do something, or maybe she was like some person who had premonitions of things that happened, and she just wrote them down, or I don't know what I thought, but
Well, it was just like the hesitant the hesitance of Roy and Cove to let Aiden go with Vanna or like split up like that kind of hinted that something was going to happen between them. And I definitely thought it was Vanna that was going to pull some crazy shit.
Yeah, like pull their oxygen off while they were separated or something. Yeah, I was anxious when they had gotten her separated. Like when they went down for the second dive or the third dive, was it? And they were, breaking off to see who was going to go with who. And Vanna was like, well, I want Aiden to come with me. And they were like, no, absolutely not. And I was like, oh, God. Here,
and then it ended up being
where it's going to happen.
Cove, Roy, and Aiden. And then Hesty and Vanna went. What did you guys think about Hesty?
I mean,
I felt like she was
think her character
terrified of everything. Just everything seemed very timid whenever her character was talking or brought up.
Well, she seemed like she was not supposed to be on that
I agree.
dive. That she was basically a person that they needed as a filler to be able to do the dive.
Well, they hired her because of her, like, degree and specialist, like, her specialty with ocean life.
Yeah, but she even said, like...
she only took the job because it was the only job that she could use her degree, even though...
But she said
really
basically,
wasn't.
like, they hired her just because of the title. There was nothing for her to do on this trip because she knew there was going to be no ocean life at that site.
Which is totally crazy to think about, that there are pockets in the world and then in the ocean that have no oxygen because what is water?
Yeah.
Water is made up of oxygen. So for you to have this ship that's sunk miles on, into the ocean, and there's no movement, there's no light, there's no nothing, I can't imagine there not being a single creature in that entire wreck. Like, that's so crazy.
That's why the second that they were like, the boat's making noise, I was like, there'd be no way in hell I'd be staying in this boat.
Well,
they said that there's no water movement down here, that there's no ocean life down here. I would be like, I'm out of here, guys. See ya.
I guess when I heard those noises, when they were doing like the flashbacks and they would hear those noises, I kind of thought of it like that. Like initially they were trying to lead you to like it's just the ship kind of like moaning because it's, you have something that big and it can't not make noise because not everything is going to move and flow together. And that's kind of what I was thinking when it was in the water. Like it was, I don't know if moaning's the right word, but the ship is like humming or moaning because it's settling or, but then you're like, there's no like waves or anything like that. Why would it still be
settling though after that long? They brought that up too. Like, there's no reason for this boat to be making
any kind of noise.
Or are the people still moving?
Yeah.
Throughout.
So did you guys like the back and forth between like before the ship sunk? And then...
I like books that do that. I think it brings you deeper into a book.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of books are moving more to that style, I feel like. Whereas a lot of times I feel like it was chronological order in the past. But I did like how it went back and forth. At first, like, I always have to, like, second guess. Is it talking about now? Is it talking about, like, because sometimes the transitions were a little different. But I did like it.
So I felt like this story would have been kind of all over the place if it hadn't gone back.
I agree.
You're seeing Harlan and Fitz and what they're experiencing while the ship is still above water, and all the craziness and the burrowing disease and all that to me that was some of the weirdest stuff, like how suspicious the captain was. And I think some of those details were probably not necessary, but a lot of them, they had to put them in there somehow to further the story.
I agree. I just think maybe the back and forth maybe was too much, or maybe it was just that they kind of drug it out a lot. Like when they would go back to what had happened before the boat had sank and they would talk about what was going on, it felt like it was just kind of a repetitive, this is what happened the day before, this is what's happening today, oh, somebody else jumped off the side of the boat today, somebody else is missing today. I kind of felt like it was just very repetitive. The same thing with present day time when they were going down. I think it probably was necessary to include, how many days that it all went on, but it just, in writing, it seemed like it went on forever. And at that point, I was just like, I'm ready to figure out what the hell is going on here. I don't want to hear any more about how you're going to go back down or how many more people are going to jump off this boat or...
Now, did you guys expect what happened with like all of the passengers that had died and kind of, reoxygenating, coming back to life? Did you expect that to be like the creepy aspect of this book? All these, like I said, like zombie...
No.
Kind of. Like, when they were talking about people on the wall, like, I thought old school, like, people died. They went in between the boards. Like, I knew that. And I assumed because they kept on talking about, like, how they could hear things through the wall. Like, that's why I thought it was these people.
Mm-hmm. Like the scratching
Yes.
and then obviously the writing on the wall that said they come from the wall and,
Yes.
they move around in the dark
And, yeah. I wasn't expecting, because wasn't there at one point, like, somebody was laying in a bed and they were, like, strapped down? Like,
Oh,
they
yeah,
were,
in the hospital.
Yeah, in the hospital. They were strapped down in the bed. I wasn't expecting that because, I don't know. I just thought in between the walls. Like, I wasn't thinking
like
outside of the walls as well.
Right. You weren't expecting like all the abundance of bodies that they describe in this book, like that big tree that was covering Aiden, and when they're in the in all the different like storage areas, it sounds like there was hundreds of them.
Yes.
Is the impression that I got.
Yes, that's how I thought of it.
Well, I was telling Will when he was asking me like what the book was about, and I was like, well, just imagine the part in Titanic where the rover is going through the ship, and then mix that with like the Ring character, like 800 of the Ring character, because that's every time they would describe it, that's what I pictured. This girl with like the dirty dress and the long flowy hair, and that's what I used to describe it.
Well, and look at the book. That kind of gave you that description too, like on the front cover.
Which was crazy because I saw that, and honestly, all I thought when I saw the cover of the book was like, oh, maybe they find a dead body.
Right.
Not
and
hundreds.
Not
Right,
hundreds.
not hundreds and hundreds of them. So,
Did you find it weird how they didn't use the rovers? I know how they didn't work. Or do you think somebody manipulated them to
They did
not?
say that.
they did.
Yeah.
Because
At the end.
Sean was, when they went on that first dive, Sean was looking through people's rooms trying
Right.
to find, like a screwdriver or some kind of evidence that the rovers were tampered with, but he ended up finding Vanna's diary
right.
instead, and I think kind of like
Got sidetracked.
Right.
Yeah.
But when they went down for that, I don't know if it was the
final.
third dive or the final
the
dive,
fourth.
he finally admitted that he was the one that...
It was the third
I
dive, wasn't it, that they went down? Or was it the fourth
I think
dive?
it was the fourth one, because it was one of the ones when Sean was in their head.
That's
Because
right.
he
It
got
had to have been the
mad,
fourth.
went and fixed the rovers, and they ended up
okay,
coming
I
down.
missed-
So yeah,
I
he
missed
admitted...
that.
Roy admitted that he tampered with them
Yeah.
because he really wanted to go
He wanted to dive
that.
all
on
3
that
times
dive,
instead
and
of just
then
once.
and then he kind of realized, I think that's why they were saying in that first dive he was really anxious and kind of was acting a little weird.
Yeah.
I missed that. Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, he ended up tampering with that. What was your reaction when you realized that Aiden was returning for the Ring, and did you think, oh hey, we're just gonna leave him because he's an idiot?
I thought he was an idiot.
I mean, I thought he was an idiot, but I didn't think his team was going to let him be there.
I thought that maybe one person would go down.
That's what I assumed.
I'm like, you guys finally know what's down there. You're really going to go back?
And he was down deep. Like, who's going to go down there? And are you really going to find this sparkly, shining
Which they
ring?
never said if he did find it.
Okay, that was one of my questions because I thought I missed it, and then I tried to go back, and I was like, I must have missed it.
No,
I
because
must have missed it.
when we finally found Aiden, he was swarmed by
Yeah, he
all
was-
the bodies.
They thought he
and-
was dead already.
Yeah. But then, of course, they had flares and the flashlights, and they were able to, Vanna was able to get in there with him
Yeah.
to give him some oxygen and kind of make sure he could at least make it out of that. Yeah, I thought that he was stupid for doing that, especially because he has absolutely no
Experience,
experience.
Yes.
and illegally, pretty much illegally obtained his diving license. Did you think that the team was going to make it out of the ship after that fourth dive?
No, I thought it was not going to be a happy ending.
I thought they were all going to die.
I agree.
Or maybe one person survived. I did not think
I thought it was going to
anybody.
be like a one person. I'll stay up top if you guys have some kind of code type thing, even though their audio wasn't working at all times. But
I thought for sure it was like one person's making it out of here alive. That's it. And then when they had gotten back to the boat and they said, "Oh, there's a big storm coming.
yes,
Can't we just stay here for the night and
I
we'll
thought
leave in the
the
morning?"
stuff
I was
was
like,
gonna come
"They're
up."
coming out of the water.
That is exactly what I thought was going to happen. I was like, oh my
I was
God,
like,
oh my
"No,
God, they're going to come up from the water.
There's no way this boat would be sitting here. I would be like, we're driving. I don't care. I don't care if we have to just drive a few miles. Like, we're not sitting above this wreck where all these dead bodies are coming to life." No.
And I was surprised how easily the other crew members that were above on the ship believed what was going on. Once they saw it, it wasn't like, I feel like if you or I were to watch that, we probably wouldn't really believe what we were seeing.
Yeah.
But I felt like they believed it so easily.
yes,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they had to, but
Well, I think probably too is that the captain of the boat had a theory of what had happened originally to the crew
with the toxic fabric
and I think that
which is why he sent Aiden down there, which
Yeah.
what an idiot.
Yeah.
Sent Aiden down there to get a piece of fabric.
Yeah.
Because what did they say? It was made with some kind of material that caused
It was like-
neuro
Yes.
hallucinations or something like that.
Yeah. So that's basically what had caused everything was the hallucinations that these people were having.
Well, there was a comment made that there was already something from that initial mummified body in the in between the layers of the ship. They said that the ship was already something
was
wrong with it, but
yeah.
that just kind of
Magnified
it and made the bad attracted to more bad,
Yeah.
and then everybody's panicked.
How crazy was it to you when, I can't remember the guy's name, when he was digging into the boat wall and he peeled back that first layer and they found that mummified body, and then they kind of locked that guy up and was, he can't come back here, and then he was back down there again,
like he kept getting out.
Yeah, and he kept getting out, but then he was digging a hole into the side of the boat, and they used his body to plug the hole with.
Yeah, that was pretty fucked up.
Oh my God. And the boat just kept chugging
going.
along. How does the water just not completely?
Well, I guess at that point it was starting to sink.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just a slower process.
I really liked.
I figured that there was no way that body would have remained there.
Right. It would have the pressure would
pressure?
have pushed it out, and he would have gone.
Yeah. All the stuff
Do you
that
like
had
that noise,
happened.
Katie?
I don't know. I find it so intriguing because even with videos that I've watched of the Titanic and them going down with the rover cameras and whatnot, when things settle at the bottom of the ocean and how things are just in pristine shape that you would think, how? They had showed China at the bottom of where the Titanic had sank, and the China's still intact. It was just in rows in the sediment at the bottom of the ocean. How does it just drift down that far and the pressure doesn't make it break? And how does it land and it's all in perfect uniform rows?
Well, if you think about it, when you drop something in the water, and it has any kind of weight to it, it kind of softly.
I know, but if you look at the footage of that kind of stuff, there was one that was an entire China set had landed, and they were all in perfect rows. So maybe it was a crate of China had drifted down there, and then over time the wood had broke apart from it, and that's all that was left. But it's kind of fascinating to me to see.
I love going to whenever they set it up around the Titanic museums and stuff like that. I've always been really fascinated by the story of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
We went and saw that at the Science Center when they had it. It was really cool.
It was really cool.
I like stuff like that. I like to be able to see it afterwards. I don't want to experience anything like that. I'll watch everything on a camera after they've explored it, but I'm not going scuba diving myself.
So other than the anxiety of them running out of oxygen, was there any moments or events in the book that just really made your heart race or just made you freak out?
I mean, I think I was more paranoid during the last few chapters of the book of them, like we mentioned, staying up above while they know all these creatures are going to be coming up.
Yeah, that made me
And during the
nervous.
storm, I think I was more panicky there. I was probably yelling, being like, go, go, you don't stay. But I think that was more where my anxiety was.
So for some...
Like, I was just thinking, you're dumb for going down again.
Yeah.
Move on, you're dumb. Let's go.
For some weird reason, the scene in the past, in 1928, when the ship was getting ready to sink, when that guy was lockpicking the captain's office and looking to send that signal, my heart was racing there, because for me, it's like when you do something you're not supposed to and you're worried that you could get caught any second. Those kinds of things just make me like, oh, are you going to get out? You got to get out. Let's go, let's go, let's go.
And then the captain was in there the whole time.
Oh, I know. I was like, what? Well, he wasn't in there when
first
he
time.
made the pan. Was he when he did the pan?
No, he wasn't in there
twice. The first time that he went in, the captain wasn't in there because he watched him
Right.
leave, and then he went in and he did. He didn't make the.
I don't think
call
he made
then.
another call then.
And then he came back out because he heard the captain coming, and he made it back out the door before the captain got in
Yeah,
there.
and then
But
That's
he
when he
forgot
realized-
to do something.
That's when
he
he
forgot
realized,
to lock the door.
That's what it
Yes,
was.
and that's when he realized that the captain was also being affected
Yes.
by everything because he had blood on him when he came out of.
Mm-hmm.
It
On
was
his
like his
sleeve.
cup of blood that he was spitting in or whatever. Blech. But then the second time that he went in, I guess he didn't realize that the captain hadn't left, and he went in and he was making the call.
Yes.
And the captain was still in the room.
Now, I don't really feel like the captain's illness had any kind of like significance to the story. Did you?
No, I mean, I think that he was dying along the lines of like everyone else, but
But in a
the
different way.
significant
Yeah.
way of it would be
Yeah,
that
like it wasn't
the
like he
captain
was
is dead, and
going-
who's going to captain the ship.
Right. Which, didn't I remember reading somewhere that he said the captain was dead? Like,
He
At
killed
the
him.
very
Yeah.
end. Yeah.
but then when he saw him, he was already supposed to be dead, wasn't he?
He was dead. So he killed him on that second time going in, and then his officers who are always called for them, like the captain
On
wants
the
to
bridge.
do a speech or whatever, they called for the captain wanting to have that, and everybody got there, and when they turned him around, he was dead.
Yes.
But the officers were like, you know, he's saying we're doing this, this, and this, but he was dead.
Yeah.
So
So it was one of the other officers that was probably giving the orders at
yeah.
that point.
I don't know if he just didn't.
I think I
see
got
him
a little
as-
of that, maybe got a little confusing
Yeah.
for me.
I don't know. It's kind of weird.
So, my final question is, will you guys read any more by this author, or will you read any more in the same genre, or was this kind of like it for you?
I will read another book by her or in this genre if you choose it for book club.
So, one of our favorite book talkers
Yes.
rants and raves about Darcy Coates. So, I would like to give her another try. I enjoyed this book. I rated this book 4 stars. I really liked it.
I think I gave it 3.
I gave it 2.
So, we will not be picking another one of this author's books.
No, go
for
no,
book club.
I
I don't want to make somebody read something that I know they're not going to like.
Oh, but that's
honestly,
the fun
yeah.
part of it, though,
Because I wouldn't choose something like this on my own. So
Yes.
it's not you're pushing me out of my comfort zone a little bit, but I think it's a good thing.
and I think it might be something that might come back to be like, okay, like looking back, be like, maybe I was a little harsh, and I do like these points of it to make me like more and more. So I would love to read it, but I don't know if it's something I would like. I would like to read more, but I don't think it's something I would just go to the bookstore and pick out myself.
I think my rule of thumb is that if I read something by an author and I'm not a fan of them, that I usually give them 3 chances.
Yes.
Now, the writing style wasn't an issue for you.
No,
it
no,
was
no,
the
no.
subject matter.
Yes, because so Geneva Rose, I think she writes very well, but I also feel like sometimes she doesn't do a lot of research.
Yes.
So I like her writing style. I think she could write very well. I'm going to give her a 3rd try because
With Home is Where the Bodies
I won
Are.
her book. But then I was reading last week. I read a book by Tessa Bailey. I also really liked her writing, but I felt like some of it was a little immature. And then I was like, I'll give her another try. I've read 3 of her books now. The 3rd book, finally, I was like, okay, I like it. She did, because she redeemed herself. So maybe one of their books isn't my style, or something about the book just pushed me the wrong way. I'll give them another try. So don't be afraid to pick something else by her, or this genre.
The subject matter. I mean,
I would still give it another try.
So one of the things when I see scary movies or horror movies, more scary movies than horror. I don't want to say horror. Horror to me is like very like gory, and that's what I think of when I think of horror. This to me is just more like scary. If you could like, if you can differentiate that difference.
It's like intense.
And the things that scare me the most are like hauntings, ghosts, and those, what was it, Paranormal Activity, those movies where it's stuff in the people's, that shit freaks me out. So I have already ordered another one of her books, and I think it's called The Haunting of Lee Harker, and it's more of like a ghosty ghost story, I think. So
I just can't read it at night before bed if you pick that.
that's up to you.
I'll have to read it in your presence.
I'm not picking it for book club. I want to give this author another try, because there's a book, like I said, there's that book talker, Bree, that I really like, and she really likes them, so I want to give it.
I feel like we're picking a lot of her stuff.
Oh, Bree?
Yeah, because the first book that we did for the podcast, 20 Years Later, by Charlie Donnelly, she raved about him.
Oh, did she? Oh, okay.
She raved about him and how great
That
of
was
an author
such a good
he
book.
is,
It was a good book.
and how he doesn't get the hype that he deserves, that he's not talked about enough. And I was like, okay, I'll give this guy a try. And then we decided to do the podcast, and I was like, okay, well, he's going to be my first pick, because apparently he writes really well. Let's give it a try.
And he did great.
He just
He
had
did not
another book
disappoint.
come out, and I think he's coming to St. Louis for a book signing.
So I'd like to go to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to pick his brain.
Yeah.
You just don't get a lot of time to actually like talk to authors.
I know you're here for another book, but we have some questions for you.
What the hell happened to the husband? What was his name? I don't remember.
Where are you though?
Right. Just kind of disappeared into the abyss.
We have some notes we need to go over with you.
Yeah. All right. Well, look forward to our next book announcement. We will be announcing the book we're going to choose next very soon, and I believe it is Kayla's pick.
Oh, God.
So please look forward to that, and we'll see you guys next time.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening and following along with us. We are so glad that you joined our book club.
Find us on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at The Book Rewind to be a part of our discussions.
I'm Katie.
I'm Kayla,
I'm Erica.
and this is The Book Rewind.